Life Audio.
Today on Talk About That, John questions Santa's delivery route and takes a private jet straight to prison. Meanwhile, I have my rental car confiscated in the middle of the night and tell the story of the time Winston Churchill got a prescription for booze. Plus a conversation about Advent, waiting, and the beauty of brokenness. Today's episode is not sponsored by Gift Bags and Limp Bizkit, both great for people who are really bad rappers. But first, a word from our actual sponsor.
Johnny, it's Christmas time in the podcast city. Let's talk about that.
We're coming to you live from a snow globe deep in the Mount Juliet, Tennessee area.
We are literally lighting the huge Christmas tree in New York right
as
now.
As is our tradition. How are we in Mount Juliet lighting a Christmas tree in New York?
I don't know. You were just being ridiculous. I thought I'd
What are you?
put us at two places. Johnny, if you believe in Santa, you believe that someone can be in multiple places.
You believe Santa's omniscient? No.
Omnipresent.
Omnipresent?
I don't. But I think he can apparently move quickly between regions.
Somebody was saying in a tweet the other day that isn't it dumb in every Santa movie when they catch Santa in the act of like dropping presents off at a house?
Yeah.
And then he gets on the roof and he takes off. He always goes like millions of miles away. It's like, dude, just go to the house next door.
Exactly.
Do you have to if you're zigzagging that way.
No wonder it's so inefficient.
Yeah, come on, dude.
You have to bend time and space to make it work.
Yeah. Not going to Indonesia now. It's like, dude, just go next door to Bob's house. How are you doing this? Your routing is terrible. My routing is terrible. My routing is Santa Claus. That's what it is.
You told me the story today at lunch. And I was
crazy.
like, that's nuts.
Yeah, I did a town called Lake Almanor, California, which literally people in California were messaging me on my Facebook and going, where is that? We've never heard of that.
Right, and they live there.
It's middle of nowhere, California. Yeah. But it was beautiful. And I did a show there, which literally we flew to Sacramento and then drove another 3 hours to get there. It's almost to Oregon, basically.
Yeah,
it's wild. It's up there, but beautiful. And they get snow in feet up there. But we did California, then we came home, Atlanta, Branson, back to Atlanta, show in Alpharetta, then home, and then we collapsed yesterday. We were exhausted. So
you told me at one point you're like, yeah, so we left out at midnight to drive to the airport. I was like, midnight.
Yeah, we did the show, and then we slept for 2 hours or 3 hours, and then we left out at midnight.
Yeah,
and the host of the show was like, we got reservations for you at this little diner in town for your dinner, and they're gonna love having you. I go, I'm going back to the Airbnb, and we're going to bed. We have to leave. And I go, I'm really sorry. I felt bad because they had prepared this whole thing. We're going to have a steak dinner for you. And I was like, I'd rather have sleep.
Sleep dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want sleep for dinner. That's when you know you're a grown up.
Oh,
When you crave sleep, right?
Yeah. No. Oh, and I'm not sleeping well right now. I crave it greatly.
Do you take things? What do you take?
I'm not taking anything right now.
What are you on right now, John?
I don't, I've taken, have you ever had those,
CBD gummies?
They're called Recess. And they're
Recess?
They're a mocktail. Okay.
Oh, boy.
So it's like
you're the same guy that says, you got to take Airborne. It was developed by a teacher. I go, yeah, I'd rather have my medicine developed by a doctor.
Well, it's got all this stuff in there supposed to help you relax and go to sleep,
Right.
Sometimes it gets me hyped up, though. I don't know what it is. Sometimes things work opposite for me. There's some sort of herbal thing called Sleep 3.
Okay.
It makes me wide awake. It makes me worse. So I don't know.
I've heard that there are people who react that way to Benadryl.
Not me. Now, Benadryl I can go down, but
I've heard that Benadryl makes some people hyper. If you have, I think it's if you have ADD. If you have hyperactivity disorder and you take Benadryl, it can have the opposite effect on you. Maybe.
Interesting.
Something, I don't know.
My kid has ADD, and we've given her Benadryl to sleep.
Does it zonker? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe then maybe it's just a myth.
It may not work probably for everybody.
Right.
It's not like it's a a uniform.
It's a delicate cocktail. It's a delicate balance that we all strike. By the way, I apologize for my Darth Vader voice today. I'm still getting over.
I think it's a better radio voice
I'm still getting over thank you.
Yeah.
I noticed that you can hit the lower register when you're singing songs. Like I was in the car and I was annoying my wife doing the Crash Test Dummy song remember that song in the 90s? Once there was this kid who... Remember that song? You don't remember that song? The really deep voice guy?
Who was the artist?
Crash Test Dummies.
Oh.
What do you think I was?
I thought it was a song.
Yeah, no.
I don't remember.
The song
that.
was called I swear it was.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I thought that was Hanson that had the.
That was Mbop.
Oh, okay, Mbop.
That was a different.
I thought we had a record called
Yeah, no,
Wait,
that was different.
That was God.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It was a different time, y'all. The 90s were wild.
I will never forget shooting the photos for that.
Yeah.
In your house on Inskip.
Right.
And you dressed up in like.
I don't know what I was doing.
You put on we put glasses on you with tape in the middle, you were this nerd. And we floated these.
We tried to float these alphabet noodles
in the
to
soup.
spell out the title of the record. Yeah.
And then, but we have all these extra pictures we didn't use of you standing over it with a spoon, making this really funny face like you're eating the.
Yeah. Man, we were.
I thought this morning, and I told you this when I was praying.
Yeah.
I was thanking God for things. Dude, you've been my friend almost 28 years.
That's what makes this so hard.
Yeah. This is the episode it all comes crashing down.
And it's Christmas time, so that sucks.
But I was thinking, I don't have any friends. See, our generation, I love that quote of the most miraculous thing about Jesus is that he had 12 friends in his 30s.
In his 30s, yeah.
People our age, I think as the generations continue in social media, they're more likely to have AI friends than they are human friends now. And dude, 28 years. So,
well, you just said I don't have any friends. What were you going to say? I don't have any friends that have friends.
Correct.
That long.
Sorry, I don't have any.
You said I don't have any friends. The thing about
you. Sorry, weird. I didn't finish that. I don't have any friends that have a friend that long standing that I know of. My mom has friends from elementary school.
Really?
Yeah.
Look at that.
She's 75. And she still goes to dinner once every couple months with two friends from elementary school. But see, their generation, and my father-in-law, the same way, he has friends from high school that he'll still talk to online and stuff, or they'll phone call for once in a while. But us, I have I have a couple friends from high school I'll talk to once every few years kind of thing, But you, bro, 28 years.
It's a lot of pressure.
And I've tried to get rid of you. It just won't take.
It's like the old Seinfeld thing about breaking up with somebody's trying to push over a Coke machine. You can't get it on the first. You got to rock it, You can't just that first. So we'll get there.
We'll get there. Yeah.
We will make it. I've got a travel story for you.
Okay.
But I think we should do it after the break, maybe.
Oh, that's
We're coming up on. Let's do it.
You want to do it now?
I don't know. I don't want to get into it because it's weird and it's kind of it's a tough one.
Well, we need to then, because if we get into something and I have to try to get you out of it,
you got to steer me.
I'm going to go here making these motions, and you're like, what? And you're like, oh. So how are you going to get us here?
I don't know. John, it is the season. And there's only how many shopping days left? Who knows? If you're listening to this, it's time to get out there and spend your hard-earned cash trying to win the love and appreciation of your friends and family. That's right. How are you going to do that? But listening to these fine ads from these fine sponsors who help us keep the lights on.
Technically, we're in my office, so we're not really helping to pay the light bill here.
Yeah, that's true.
But
we do nothing. We contribute nothing.
Yeah.
Have we ever had Hertz as a sponsor? Do you know? You listen to the show more than I do as far as the finished product.
I don't remember. I know we have Geico.
Because, I'm a Hertz Gold person.
Hey, algorithm, if you're listening.
Yeah. I'm a pretty big deal at Hertz. Actually, we landed in Branson, and we go down, and I go to get my little, I've got a gold reservation, blah, 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 and I'm picking it up, and the guy's got all the little gold packets out.
Oh.
They just hand you your key, basically, at Springfield Airport. It's a small airport. And the guy goes, I'm Jeff, blah, blah. He shook my hand. I was like, oh, this guy's really friendly. And then he goes, I'm a big fan. I go, what? My account says Jonnie W comedy or whatever, and I think he must have known, oh, I know that guy. And so he was like, oh, blah, blah. And then Curry was behind me, and he goes, you're very respected. I go, oh, well, thanks. And then Curry snickered under her.
I would have too.
They're very respected by the Hertz. So anyway.
Out of all the things you could have said about Jonnie W.
Yeah, well respected. But anyway, we get in our dumb Chevy Malibu, and we head to our gig. I did a Christmas party the other night. And then we have a 6 a.m. flight the next day to Atlanta. And I have a luncheon show in Atlanta. And so it's literally we're going to get 4 hours sleep after the show. Then we got to get up at 3 a.m. and drive to the airport. But we got 4 hours. Let's go. Let's go to sleep. And I get off stage, and we're going to drive back to the hotel to go to sleep. And I have 4 urgent voicemails from a guy at Hertz named Tyler. Tyler is at his wit's end. He cannot reach me. He goes, hey, there's a problem with your car.
What?
I need you to, there is an item in it that someone has left it, a lost and found item. I need you to secure the car. Do not drive the car. He said it more than once. Do not drive the car.
What?
I will come trade the car out. I've got a car. I can meet you. I think he knew that I was staying in Branson somehow because Springfield's like an hour.
Yeah.
And so he was like, I can come meet you. Just please call me back. And then another one and another one. And I'm listening to these voicemails because my phone was in Do Not Disturb mode when I was on stage.
Right.
So I just have these, they all come through. And this guy, he's getting more ramped up with each voicemail. I'm like, what is going on?
Was it the same guy at the airport?
No, it wasn't the guy from the airport that said I was well respected.
So he's not losing
respect. This guy has no respect for me.
Okay.
And I'm like, immediately we're trying to think in our head, like, what is in this car? Because my buddy Aaron had told me a story about a rental car that this guy, his friend returned a rental car, and they literally found like a firearm in the glove box of the rental car and tried to accuse the guy of it. He goes, I never looked in the glove box. It's not mine. Just look and see who it's registered to. It's not mine. And he still had to like answer all these depositions and go through this whole like month-long process of like proving it wasn't his gun in the car.
Wow.
And I said, so immediately I thought to that story and I said, Curry, there's a gun in this car. I said, that's why they have to come trade it out. There's a gun and they can't tell. Because I said, Tyler, finally got a hold of Tyler. Because there was a voicemail from his private number. The 4th voicemail was from his number because he had to leave work. And I kept calling the Hertz number and getting like, the automated nonsense.
You know why he knew you were in Branson? Because they have tracking on your car, but
oh, they might have. I don't know. All I know is he said, I'm willing to come meet you. I know it's an hour away, but I'll come bring you a Mercedes SUV.
You park on one side of the bridge, I'll park on the other.
It was. I'm wearing a red Carnation, no cops. And I'm going, so I asked Tyler, I go, what is going on with this car? I said, you can't tell me, can you? And he goes, I can't tell you. And I said, there's a gun in this car, isn't there? And I said, you have to come get the car. And there's a gun in it, and so you can't. He goes, I can't tell you what's going on. And I said, okay, I'll go get my stuff out of the car. And immediately, when I hung up the phone, and Curry goes, we're going to go down and scour this car. Mm-hmm. So we go down, and I'm shining my flashlight into the seats. I'm looking in the glove box. I'm like, I can't see anything wrong with the car. The only thing we didn't do is look under the hood. But there was nothing in the car, John. I looked under the little flap where the spare tire was. I looked everywhere. And I'm thinking, what is going on with this car? But now I have to stay up another hour and wait on this guy to bring me this other car. Because he goes, I'll just leave the key at the desk, and then you can leave me your key at the desk, and that way you won't even have to ever mess with it. And I go,
yeah, but what if somebody's not at the desk? And
yeah, what I now have to convince them. I said, I can't miss my flight. I cannot miss my flight. I have a Christmas party tomorrow I have to be at. He goes, I'll just wait on you. He goes, okay. And then as he's on his way, I go, Curry, what if this is a scam? I go, how do I know that this guy is really with Hertz? He's just coming I'm going to hand him keys to a rental car that I'm responsible for now, that I can't see any problem with.
Well, as long as he hands you keys, I guess it's fine.
Well, I just thought, so I start messaging. I go, Tyler,
he's bringing a car with a gun. That's the whole. That's what I'm saying. That's
what I said. I said, what if this car that he's bringing me was involved in a crime, or I don't know what's going on? And I'm just like,
see, that's some heavy duty though paranoia.
It is, but I'm also thinking like, he can't tell me any details. He's just saying, do not drive the car.
Look, I have a contract that says I can drive the car. You tell me what's going on. And
I said, I'm returning it in 3 hours. He goes, I need to come get the car.
That's interesting.
I go, okay. So he comes, he shows up at the lobby. It's like 10:30 at night now. And so like my whole sleep is just, I'm ruined. I'm just like, there's no way. I'm already going to get like a nap basically. 2nd day in a row, by the way. I'm like, ugh. So I'm like, okay. So he shows up. He has a business card. He's wearing a Hertz jacket. He goes, he goes, here's a picture of your new contract that's switched out for this car. He goes, they'll email you the receipt, but they couldn't email it now because it's after business hours. I said, okay. He walks me out. Sure enough, it's this very nice Mercedes SUV, and I'm like, okay. And then he just takes off and I said, as we're walking to the car, I said, there was nothing in that car, Tyler. I looked. I said, but can you tell me anything? He goes, no. I said, was it used in a crime? I said, because now my prints are in it too. He goes, I can't tell you. I think he said no to that. I think he said no, it wasn't. Because I was like, was this car used in a crime?
So you never found out?
And I will never find out. I texted him yesterday because I still have Tyler's number. And I said,
Dude, start blowing up his phone now.
I said, it really bothers me that I will never know. I said, I'm going to think about it every day. And it will bother me. Every time I rent a Hertz car, I'm going to think about this moment that, like, I will never know why they had to have that car back.
I wonder if that's what Tyler does. Like, he's the guy that goes when there's a problem.
He's the fixer.
Yeah.
But what was the problem? What could it possibly be? There was nothing in the car that I could see. And again, I mean, we shined the light under every seat.
And guys, isn't that just like our lives?
We lifted up. Some of y'all hiding stuff in your car.
He's trying so hard, but Tyler's on his way.
God's trying to give you a Mercedes. You're hanging on to a Chevy Malibu that you done held up a liquor store with. But every time, when we lifted up that flat, this is when I got nervous. When I opened that glove box, I was like, there's going to be a kilo of Coke in here. Or when I lifted up the little tire flap, I was like, there's a human head in a duffel bag or something. Yeah. There was nothing.
Well, Tyler would have sent the police for that, surely.
I guess, but I don't know.
I mean, how would he have known? Hey, we found out there's a human head in one of our cars. Quick, send Tyler. I think it would have been.
Tyler's like, I got this.
Surely if it would have been something criminal, they would have had the police intersect. Because, yes, your prints are all over it now. They would need to secure it as if it's a crime
like if
scene.
it was somebody's diamond earring or whatever, it's like we have to secure the car before somebody realizes it and takes the item or something. Like, I understand it almost, but, like, we saw nothing in the car. So it just makes me think.
I wonder if you weren't the first person to have rented the car since they figured out this problem and someone else had already found it and taken it.
Oh, maybe.
Because it could have been they found this out from a few, rentals
somebody
ago.
Else, yeah, somebody took the duffel bag of cash.
Yeah.
I don't know, but doesn't it bother you? It bothers you now. Like, I've handed off the grief to you that you will never know either.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to have a conversation with Tyler, off the record. Hey, buddy, you're not with her. You're not with Hertz now. This is just me and you. I will say this. He didn't make me fill it up with gas. He goes, don't worry about filling it up with gas. The car that he brought to me. Because I was like, dude, you're bringing me this Mercedes, but I got to go retop it off now. And he goes, no, don't fill it up. And he goes, and I'm going to give you, he gave me like he told me an amount. He hasn't given it yet, but he said, I'm going to give you this many thousand Hertz points or whatever. So, because he goes, I can't credit your card because it's already been charged for the Malibu. He goes, but I can give you Hertz points.
Hertz points?
Yeah.
You
but it's good
like
for free.
3 free rentals.
Well, that's what it'll be. Hertz points worth 3 days of free rental or whatever. Okay. So, yeah.
That's what
the point. What do you think the points are, John?
I mean, just giving you points. I don't know how many points it takes.
It's not like a gold star from Tyler.
I feel like
I've brought this medal.
I feel like that they put you in danger.
Yeah.
And
I did feel like an extra ramped up sense of myself when he was like, "Please secure the car. We're coming to get it."
Secure. Dude, that's, yeah.
I was like, what?
That's great language.
Curry had this look on her face like, is this real?
Oh, man.
And I was like, are we spies now?
Oh, my goodness.
Are we double agents?
Wouldn't it be amazing? I think you have to be aware.
Yeah.
Someone has to approach you.
Well, I'm a patsy.
If you thought this whole time that you were a spy.
Like, I'm a patsy, though.
You could be someone that a spy is setting up.
I don't know, man.
But Johnny, I can only tell you about my sordid life of espionage.
Yes.
Espionage.
Yeah, I started to say espionage.
I can't even say espionage.
That's the lodge. That's the lodge where the
spies
stay.
go to hang out.
They go to the espionage. And you want to be a writer.
I know. I really do want to be a writer.
I had a tweet one time that had the word espionage in it, and it was that the early days of cell phones and autocorrect. I sent a text to my wife that said, I'm outside. When she was in the store, I'm outside. And it autocorrected. It really did. It autocorrected to imposter. Because the words are so close together, the I and the M. Imposter. And I was like, and so began my life of espionage. What a weird thing to send to your wife. Just for you to get a... Yeah. They've come for me.
I had an interesting travel story, too, last week.
Not as good as mine, though, right?
No,
don't oversell it. I'm kidding around. No, it bothers me that I won't know that because I feel like it's kind of a dud. It's almost like my AGT story where it's like, I got on AGT, everybody stood up. What an amazing story. Yeah. I didn't make it on the show. It's like that's how the Hertz thing is. It's like
you're a who's near misses.
Like bro. I want it to be like, and Tyler pulled a gun, or I found a bag of weed or something like something.
Or like a bunch of Marines came out in ghillie suits and they were surrounding us the whole time or whatever.
Surrounding the Malibu.
Yeah, like they were there securing you.
Anyway, I'm sure your story's great. Go ahead.
It's not like that really, but
you went to some island, right?
Well, I was going to say last week, yes. So we haven't had a show. By the way, sorry about not having a show last week, everybody.
I was sick, and I'm still you can tell I'm still a little bit, this is proof positive that I'm recovering.
Yeah, there's weather and Johnny's under it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But we could have done last Thursday, but then, so I went to Marco Island in Florida for Thanksgiving.
Oh, right. That's not the story you're going to tell, though.
But that was great.
Yes.
Have you ever been to Marco Island? It's like almost down to the Everglades. Like it's way down there.
You went to a different isolated place, though.
And it was, on this trip. I did, on this other trip. It was great. So I come back, and me and you were going to try to record, but I was like, dude, I can't because I got a call because I've been writing for a guy who's got an amazing story who spent some time in prison.
Right.
And he's doing, incredible prison work and ministry and reform right now. And so anyway, they had a kind of a last second, they're shooting a lot of videos that are telling inmate stories and things.
Right.
And their families and stuff. And it's really just unbelievable stuff. And so I'm kind of just being around some of their video stuff and sort of consulting a little bit on the story side of things. And so anyway, they had to go last minute to a prison in Missouri. We're like, hey, we can stop and pick you up in our plane. And so,
our plane.
Yeah.
A private plane.
Yeah. So I got up early that morning. I couldn't, and went in. Dude, I know you've done this before because you've flown private. I had not, but it was crazy. I walked into the little Lebanon airport, and it's just interesting because I fly, probably more than the average person. And the process to get to the Nashville International Airport and go through security and all the things. And like literally, I walked in and I was like, hey, someone's picking me up. And I watched a plane land and it pulled up like a car, basically. Yeah. And I went in and got on the plane and we took off.
Showed ID, right? They had your name on a list or something? Like an itinerary?
Did I show ID?
Or they just were like, I'm John, and they just let you on the plane?
Well,
we had to show IDs before.
The guy who owns the plane let me on the plane.
Yeah.
Because he knows me.
I guess, okay.
So, they had a flight plan and everything. And,
that's true.
So, anyway, we flew to Missouri and it was great. But dude, the stuff in the prison that we saw, they've outfitted a studio in the prison for the inmates. Some of the inmates are shooting the videos.
Yeah.
And they had editing equipment and it was just unbelievable the work that they're doing and capturing stories, but really humanizing, because they're real humans, and I think it's easy for us to,
right. Well, this guy's got his eye on this rehabilitative model versus a punitive model of prisons. Right?
Yeah, he's not saying like that they don't, have a need to be there for whatever that they did, but just that, his story, and when his book comes out, I'll talk about it. Everybody could get it. It's going to be amazing. But he dealt drugs and spent 5 years in prison, and his life was turned around, and came out, became a very successful businessman, but he's helped so many now former inmates sort of find their footing. Yeah. You find out things about what it's like to be a felon out of prison and how hard it is, to take the
stigma
step.
And everything.
So anyway, it was a really interesting story. So no, it wasn't like espionage.
So you took a private plane to a prison, like your first private jet was taken to a prison.
Yeah.
And we were talking today at lunch about the jail you were at, and I did comedy at that prison.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The first show that I ever did, the first prison I ever did comedy at was that prison.
And what's crazy is I saw something on the wall
and they had,
from when you were there.
Yeah.
It was like a plaque of Jonnie W. It was like, no, I did not see that.
They were like, do not let this guy back in.
Going through security was interesting and stuff, though. Like no cell phone, no, it was...
They're serious. The whole, you buzzed into this one little holding area, then you're buzzed through another one that's like a little vacuum sealed area. You're like, all right, this is something else, man.
But I met the warden and talked. There's part of the deal with my friend I'm writing for. He's looking for prison systems that are doing it right, states that are doing things differently and right. And Missouri's one of those places.
Okay.
And Missouri's doing a lot of amazing things. And I noticed when we were leaving and we had finished the video shoot and stuff that the inmates who were working on the shoot, as they were going back to their cells, like the warden was shaking their hands.
Huh.
And we got on the plane. I was like, man, that doesn't seem
right.
He goes, no, that's not. He goes, that's the culture shift. Like these are, like there are committees and other things that are talking about programs and stuff that inmates are sitting on because their input, this is where they live, some of them for their whole lives, and so, it's obviously in layers and levels and trust and all kinds of things, but it was fascinating. It was good. And I met a guy who had published a book, and I'll tell that story sometime, but I went through with him like, dude, how did you do this? Because they can't receive paper mail anymore. They have an email system, but it's mainly like texting. No attachments, no DocuSigns, no whatever, and just the process he had gone through. It was fascinating. And he was brilliant. I mean, a brilliant guy. His understanding of story and all. Because they were like, John's here as a story specialist. And then this guy started talking. I was like, this guy knows way more than I know about things. I didn't say that out loud. I'm glad I haven't put that in a public forum.
No.
To sort of, bring down my value to teams.
Yeah, that would be bad.
It'd be horrifying. You couldn't come back from that.
They're like, why don't you take a cab back, John? We've wasted fuel on you.
When we did get back, the airport was closed, and so we landed. Of course, it's all barbed wire and stuff all around it here in Lebanon. I was like, I may not be able to get out of here. I'm just going to take off. I'm about to climb this fence or something. But
to get to your car.
But a gate was open. So, Johnny, sometimes the gate to get in is locked. But man, the gate to get out is always open.
And John's like, I got in my Chevy Malibu.
I got in my 2010 Acura.
Yeah.
And hey, John, it's about that time, though.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I think it's time for my quote of the week. It's a segment that we like to call They Talked About That.
You know I'm going low today.
Oh, you got to.
That was a little flat. I apologize.
Lost my breath there for a second.
Got to take time.
Today, a little Advent quote.
Okay.
From Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Said, the celebration of Advent is possible only to those who are troubled in soul, who know themselves to be poor and imperfect, and who look forward to something greater to come. And I'm preaching this week on, I did hope 2 weeks ago, and this week is joy. Yeah. And which I think is funny whenever it's my turn to preach on joy in any sort of form or fashion, because I think it's probably the thing I struggle with the most out of the fruits of the Spirit, probably. I wouldn't say I'm like an unhappy person, but that speaks, I think, to the, I wouldn't say misconceptions, but the conceptions we have about what joy is, which we equate to happiness, right?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't consider myself, I think I'm a moderately happy person. I'm also a person who, at lunch today, I was taking you through all, like an Enneagram 6 goes through all the worst case scenarios and plays them all the way out, and how you would do this and that. I mean, we spend a lot of time in our foreboding, the future a little bit, or planning to try to avoid the trouble of the future. But Advent is about waiting, and I'm studying joy this week, and there is this, like, I even thought today, I'm probably going to use it Sunday, if the joy of the Lord is our strength, which is what Scripture says, I think what we want our strength to be is like the deliverance of the Lord. Mm-hmm. Like that he gets me out of my problem or my trouble. And I've been really wrestling with him a lot, like having some hard conversations on a few things. In particular, there are some things that have happened that I had prayed about not happening, that I saw coming years ago, or said, hey, lead me around that trouble. And then he didn't. I'm like, hey, like I specifically asked you for this. Yeah. And I really felt kind of like over the course, I was running at the beach, kind of wrestling a little bit on these things. And I really felt over the course of that week, like these impressions of, hey, number one, John, I started realizing that like 95% of the things I pray about are asking God to keep me from a certain trouble.
Right.
Or keep you from a trouble, or keep my kid from a trouble.
Yeah, like insulation. Yeah, you're asking for insulation.
And I'm naming all the things.
I know there's going to be trouble in the world. Can you let it not affect me? I need padding.
Yeah. Lead me around it.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay, because that's in the Lord's Prayer, right?
Yeah.
Lead us away from, we say temptation, but like the Anglican translation, the one they use is like, save us from the time of trial, right? Or save us in the time of trial. So there's like a trial, like God, this is coming, lead us away. I think it's okay. Like I think that Scripture has that. But I felt like the Lord was kind of saying like, hey, I answer that prayer in two ways. Sometimes I do lead you, like I keep you from those things. A lot of the time. I think that's why I get frustrated, because I started almost being embarrassed about, wow, that really is how much, like I spend so much time trying to name all the things that could go wrong and asking God to keep us from them. But he goes, sometimes I keep you through them. And it sounds real sermon-y, forgive me for that. It wasn't that. It wasn't like like a cheesy, I'm going to now take this and put this on the podcast. That was not how that came. It was very revealing to me. Like I felt very seen.
Yeah.
Like I'm answering that prayer. I'm going to keep you either way, but it's not always from it. So just because you could name it and I didn't do that doesn't mean I'm not with you, don't care about you. Like there are times I just have to keep you through those things. And I think that speaks to this quote. Like I thought about all the trouble in the story. Like Mary's an unwed teenage mom who has a very unlikely story, right? Oh yeah, sure. This is the Holy Spirit who, you've become pregnant by. Joseph, this is not at all his plan. There's a lot of story. And think about the story. This dude's navigating his pregnant wife, to Bethlehem, no room in the inn, baby being had in a barn. And then over the course of the next 2 years, like he's escaping a murderous king. I mean, it's lots of trouble, right? He's having to be warned in dreams. He's living in Egypt for 2 years. Like there's a lot going on with this new dad that he's just a carpenter. Like he's not into espionage, Johnny. Like this is not what he does. It's not like you.
Yeah.
He's a man of the world.
Nobody came to get his rental car.
That's right. He's just having to drive around with the trouble. There's no securing it. And all the way to, Zechariah, like, and I read this week in one of the devotions, like it wasn't just that he lost his voice. It actually says in Scripture he also lost his hearing at one point. That God made him not only unable to speak but unable to hear. Like he spent that 9 months in silence and solitude, and so like none of them were delivered from the trouble. Right. The trouble was there, but that. The real point of the Advent is it has to be for people in trouble. And so if the joy of the Lord's our strength, who needs strength? People in weakness, right?
Right.
And so like, almost like in order to have we think of it as happiness, but I think it comes with some happiness, but the real joy comes in trouble. Otherwise you wouldn't need the strength. Only the weak need the strength. So it's just, I don't know, there's something about that this is not just a story of buy presents and a baby born and this is all happy. This is a story of people in trouble, right? And but the joy that came to them was their strength because it came in the trouble. So.
Yeah, I think that broken people, like that's one of the things that's kept me a Christian all these years is like I see something beautiful about people admitting their brokenness and their need for something outside of themselves that you don't see in other spots.
Yeah.
There's this need to like fake it outside of faith where you just go, no, everything's fine. I don't need anybody but myself. You see that kind of in Instagram, like I would call it like Instagram religion, where it's just like, if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. Like that, there's a lot of those weird tropes out there.
Believe in yourself, yeah.
And I just feel like Christianity is one of those things where it's just like, no, if you're not broken, you can't even access this until you access your brokenness and your desperate need for this. And so, like, that's the thing that's kind of, I hang on to, I cling to. I go, okay, there's a purity to this. And there used to be a song that I loved so much in the 90s by an artist named Steve Taylor. And it was called Jesus is for Losers. And he said he was watching a talk show and there was a guy who used to be a porn star and now he's a born-again Christian. And he was like, he said, I thought to myself, it's exactly what we need, a porn star for Jesus. And then he said, I felt very convicted after I said the words. Because it's like, who else needs Jesus more than this broken person who's done all these things that we consider morally reprehensible? He needs him the most.
Yeah.
And who do I think I am that I'm above this need? And whenever I speak on Sunday mornings, I say that. I always say, you can't really love somebody if you secretly believe they need Jesus more than you. So I think there's something, we have to access that brokenness in ourselves, or you can't even come to a place of faith. You have to access that need.
Yeah.
And that you can't get there. You have to come to kind of the end of yourself, as some people would describe it in recovery,
Yep.
And so, yeah, that's the thing that's beautiful. And the waiting part of it is the hardest part, obviously, like the idea that, there was Babylonian rule for 400 years or whatever. And like, there's just now, we feel like we're in this in-between even now.
Yeah.
In American culture, this American evangelicalism is in this weird spot where there's so many nomads. I would consider myself like an outsider to many parts of the culture. And so you just kind of have to live in that and make peace with it.
It's interesting. I was having a talk with a pastor friend, and he said those words. He said, make no mistake, like we are in exile. Like there's parts of us that are in exile.
Yeah.
I don't mean that to sound dramatic. I know there's real exile, but be at peace, right? I mean, like God's people are often in exile in some way. I mean, and that's in some ways, if you weren't in exile, that'd be a problem. If you fit as things are today, like, oh, this feels like home. That's a problem.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's fascinating. And I use that. I was talking to a friend the other night. I was like, it's one of my grace sort of filters is, and I think coming from that prison really it was an amazing experience, is do I really believe there's someone in this world that needs God's grace more than me? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a question I think we need to all ask ourselves. It's without it, to your point, then there's no, I think this is, again, sorry, people think the unpardonable sin is this speaking against the Holy Spirit or against Jesus, this blasphemy thing that we say. And I'm again, this is just my own amateur theologian opinion. And I'm not saying we should speak against or, intentionally, verbally blaspheme the Holy Spirit, but I think that the true highest form of blasphemy would be rejecting the work of the Holy Spirit, which makes you aware of your need for a Savior, aware of the death that you're walking in that only a resurrection can reverse, versus like, oh, I'm okay, but I'm not as bad as that guy. I'm just sick, but I can get better.
Yeah.
Versus, no, he's dead and I'm dead. And neither one of us are going to live without a resurrection. Yeah. So I need a resurrected Savior who brings that life. So otherwise, it's not an improvement. You can join your YMCA to improve your life or go to therapy. Like this is like, I need to be alive.
Right.
So yeah, interesting.
It's good stuff. John's quote. John, let's move on to my segments. Let's do Johnny's old jokes. We call it Joke About That. John, I wanted to highlight a few jokes from one of my favorite comedians from the 80s. A true, original, what I would say is the original alternative comic. He was so strange and weird and wonderful. It's a guy named Emo Phillips. Have you ever heard of Emo Phillips?
Yeah.
Emo was strange because he had weird jokes and was very smart, so he wasn't for everybody in that way. He had really dark sense of humor, and so that he would divide the crowd in that way. And he also spoke with what's called like a wandering falsetto voice, almost like a child's voice. Mm. And so that was strange to people. And nobody even really could figure him out. He dressed weird. He was just kind of an odd-looking guy. I love Emo. I think he's still performing. He still opens for Weird Al Yankovic on tour because they're old friends. They were old roommates when Weird Al was starting out too. So a few Emo jokes. Look up Emo Phillips on YouTube. If you don't know who Emo is, fantastic. A couple. This one's a good. I won't read these in Emo's voice, by the way. I'm not doing it, especially with my low-pitched voice today. There's no way I could even pull it off. A computer once beat me at chess, but it was no match for me at kickboxing. Like that one? New York is such a wonderful city. Although I was at the library today, the guys are very rude. I said, I'd like a card. He said, you have to prove you're a citizen of New York. So I stabbed him. At night, my house makes funny noises like, and Emo, I'm going to kill you. When I was 10, my parents moved to Downers Grove, Illinois. When I was 12, I found them. And this is one of my favorites. I may have even told this on the show before many years ago because we've been doing this show long enough that this is one of my favorite old jokes as far as misdirection. When I was a kid, my parents used to tell me, Emo, don't go near the cellar door. Don't go near the cellar door. One day when they were away, I went up to the cellar door and I pushed and I walked through and I saw strange, wonderful things that I'd never seen before, like trees and grass and flowers and the sun. That was nice. So great. That's like the ultimate misdirection.
It's joke. A lot of misdirections.
So great. You don't know what side of the cellar door he's on.
I love it.
Such a great reveal. What a perfect joke.
Yeah.
Anyway, Emo Phillips, we love you. We love you. You're out there, still out there kicking around, and one of the true pioneers of what I would consider like alternative comedy. Fantastic. John, let's do This Week in History. We call it Talk About Then. John, this week we're going to do a couple of Christmas-themed ones because this week, 1983, one of the most sought-after toys premiered. The Cabbage Patch Kids dolls were featured on the cover of Newsweek magazine. The dolls were responsible for Black Friday riots at stores where shoppers were trampling each other to adopt them, quote. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, adoption riots. The dolls would go on sale and set the record as the most successful new doll introduction in the history of the toy industry. I guess beating Barbie, so that's pretty intense.
Wow.
They were created in 1976 by Xavier Roberts using the German technique of needle molding from the 1800s. That's how you could do those little dimples. Mm-hmm. I don't know the techniques, but instead of selling them, he allowed people to adopt them from Babyland General Hospital, which he ran from a renovated turn-of-the-century medical facility. Wow. That's kind of odd.
They paid for the adoption still.
They still, yeah, come on. He's still,
weren't.
Yeah, come on. It's not that altruistic. Yeah, come on, dude. Winston Churchill was hit by a car this week in 1931, John. The English statesman and future prime minister is hit by a cab while walking across Fifth Avenue. Do you know why? He was in New York City. He had apparently forgotten that American traffic keeps to the right. And he didn't look in the correct direction. This is the part I liked, and the reason I included it was he suffered a serious scalp wound as well as 2 cracked ribs and was admitted to the hospital, where he later told the police the accident was entirely his fault. Concerned that the driver of the cab would be blamed and then have trouble finding work, Churchill arranged to meet him at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, where Churchill served the driver tea and gave him an autographed copy of his book, The Unknown War. Now, that's a true author right there. Wow. It's just like, hey, I wanted to get you out of trouble, by the way. Here's my latest book. I signed it. That's something. That's a John Driver move.
Jerks.
If I've ever heard. Yeah. You're gonna read this. Not so black and white.
You know, I'm exactly like Winston Churchill in so many ways. But
a lot of ways.
That one really,
absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Churchill used his time in the hospital to write an article about the incident titled "My New York Misadventure," which he then sold for $2,500. Again, he's immediately monetizing this. Well, I don't know what that is in today's money, but it's a lot.
That was like him going to sponsors. Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna take a moment.
And now
here.
a word to pay for my scalp injury. The following month, Churchill got a prescription from his doctor for alcohol to help alleviate the pain from this accident. This was during Prohibition, when the sale, manufacture, and transportation of alcoholic beverages was prohibited.
But it wasn't in England,
except for special. It was in New York, so the following month. So I guess he was still here, maybe.
Oh, okay.
And he was like, hey, I need a prescription for booze.
Wow.
And they gave it to him.
I can't believe that Winston Churchill
like, you've been through so much.
Wouldn't have had access to whatever he wanted in New York City.
Just send out for a flask of something.
I'm kidding. He's Winston Churchill.
Evidently, he went through all the processes just like the rest of us.
He could have... Anyway.
I don't know. John, this week, the first balloon flight took place in 1782.
Yeah.
Brothers Joseph and Jacques Montgolfier tested their first balloon. They built a large box out of thin wood and lit a fire beneath it. The unmanned balloon took off with such force, they lost control of it. It floated nearly 2 kilometers. Joseph had been inspired by the lifting force of smoke from a fire. Upon landing, alarmed villagers attacked it with pitchforks and stones. This is the 1700s.
Where was it?
They were like, it's a witch! Or what? I don't know what they said, but this was in, it doesn't say.
Couldn't you tell that it...
They had strange Montgolfier, so maybe it was France. I don't know. It doesn't say. It says kilometers, so maybe it's a European country. So.
Well, obviously, but couldn't you tell that it was like a man-made box?
If you're in the 1700s and you see this weird thing on fire land that had been flying by itself, you wouldn't be like, that's the devil? John, finally, this week, born 1778, English scientist Sir Humphrey Davy, he discovered the effects of inhaling laughing gas in 1799. He discovered potassium, sodium, barium, strontium, calcium in 1808. He gave the first public demonstration of an electric light in 1806 and invented the safety lamp for miners in 1815.
Wow.
The word anesthesia is from the Greek for without sensation. I don't know where that must be another thing he invented, because it just says, it just has that as a little footnote. So maybe he invented
in other news.
In other news, anesthesia. Yeah.
We're just dropping fun facts.
I guess, but because I guess that has something to do with maybe what for laughing gas, because he had laughing gas was an anesthesia. So he invented laughing gas as an anesthetic. So he discovered the effects, though. So I don't know if laughing gas was already around. He was like, hold on, get these pliers and pull this tooth.
Yeah.
Because I'm feeling pretty good right now. I bet you could do whatever you want. You could punch me around the face. I wouldn't feel it.
Yep.
Have you ever, do you do the gas when you do if you have a root canal, you do all of it?
I'm not sure I've had a root canal. I'm not sure I've had gas. I've had a couple cavities in my life, and
I had the most laughing gas they can give you. I have a lot of anxiety at the dentist. Mm-hmm. So they had to do a couple of crown procedures.
You give a comedian laughing gas. That seems like there's something there.
The guy was funny though. He said, I'll give you the most we can give you. So you'll feel, and I felt it vibrating through my hands and back. Like I felt it in waves happening. Yeah. And I heard him say,
he put you in a waterbed.
As he was turning it on, this was the comment he said. I'll never forget it. He said, let's start him at June Carter Cash and crank him up to Johnny. Isn't that a great line?
That's great.
He cranked me all the way up to Johnny. And I felt it, buddy. I was in the zone.
Yeah.
I could have woken up with false teeth. I wouldn't have known. He could have done them all.
I do like doctors with that kind of, like again, that when I had that.
I found out later he wasn't even a dentist.
I was in an alley somewhere. Yeah, I never forget that guy on my bronchoscopy. I walked in and he was like, well, did you sleep good last night? I was like, not really. He goes, me neither. And he
I've had a real rough time.
Let's go. Let's do this. And he started laughing. So anyway.
Sheesh. Well, anyway, he invented and discovered all those elements and gases. And what have you done?
Nothing.
That's what have we done? What have I done?
I
write dumb jokes.
I know. Yeah, I think about that. We don't really do anything. What is it? What is it you'd say that we do here?
I don't know. Oh, I will say to my dear listeners, if you're interested in a show, Columbia, Tennessee, the 21st is my last show my last public show of the year, and there are still tickets available. It's Paul Aldrich and friends, my buddy Paul. We're doing a show in Columbia, Tennessee at this little theater. Very excited about it. Got some new bits planned, and I'm excited. So get tickets, JonnieW.com.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to tell you I was going to be there.
I know, because it's the playoff game. It's the Vols versus Ohio State. It couldn't have been avoided. My show's been booked for weeks.
I know. And as your friend, I'm like, what are you thinking?
I know.
You should have kept December pretty much open in case we make the playoffs.
Just in case we make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to have one eye on the old iPhone.
Yeah. Like doing jokes and watching the game.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. There'll be people in the crowd doing it too. It's in Tennessee. I mean, what can we do?
Yeah. If people wanted to see other dates that are coming up, where would they go?
JonnieW.com. And if you want to support this show, go to talkaboutthatpodcast.com. Click that upper right-hand corner if you want to support the show and get ad-free content. Send us a note if you want to hear our opinions on things, or give us an opinion, your opinion. hello@talkaboutthatpodcast.com.
Yeah, we love hearing from our listeners. Had a few this week. We're a little out of time to read those today. Maybe next week we can read some of those.
A little teaser.
Yeah. Be a lot of fun. But guys, thanks for the time you gave us today. It was a lot of fun. And hey, Merry Christmas out there. Hope you're enjoying the beginning of the holiday season and that it's merry and bright. Mm-hmm. All right, we'll see you next week here on
Talk About That.